Hello, everyone. It's lovely to be here. My name is Jan Llewellyn. I'm living over here in the UK, so it's 3 p.m. here this afternoon. So wherever you are in the world, I just want to welcome you to this session with Will entitled The Great Wide Open. I first came across Will's teachings in about 2007, and I was working as a nurse at the time and training to be a mindfulness teacher within healthcare, and doing a lot of deep diving into the body. And I really did struggle with turning towards sensations in the body at the time. I realized I was most of the time lost in thought. And I found Will's book, Aligned, Relaxed and Resilient, and just drank it in. It really spoke to me and totally changed my attitude towards the inner journey within the body. So utilizing those principles of, sitting with the support of gravity, in alignment, upright, and exploring the resilient motion of the body with the breath just completely transformed my experience of sitting and really helped me to stay present when difficulties arose in my experience. And years later, I treated myself to a retreat with Will in New Hampshire, which was where I first had contact with an experience of the Great Wide Open that will be bringing us to today. So yeah, and I went on to Costa Rica to do the training with Will within the last 2 years. It's really been transformational and extremely healing for me personally. So I'm just really glad to be here. And it's such an honor to introduce Will, and such a joy to be here with you all.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Appreciate your kind words. Good morning, everyone. And Jan, for you and the other people, I know there's other people from Europe on this call. Good afternoon. My understanding there's some people from Asia. So this will be good evening at some point. But, welcome. Just as Jan was saying, what we really want to be doing here with these talks is welcoming people to have some exposure to what it is that we're up to. And it's clear to me that what I'm up to is very, very traditional Dharma, but not so much contemporary Dharma, more based on some of the old instructional teachings that, from my perspective, in some ways have been forgotten. So the practice to me is really about awakening. It's about awakening. A Buddha means awakened, one who has become awakened. So what needs awakening? What are we so sleepy about? In the teaching that I do, certainly in the sitting meditation teaching, I focus very precisely on the awakening of feeling presence in the body, because that's what we are so asleep to. For those of us who are not vision impaired or hearing impaired, we can pretty much focus our attention on an object in the visual field or a sound and be aware of it. But if you tell someone, well, what is the feeling sensation? What's going on behind your left knee? Sometimes we'll come up with, I have no idea. Now, as I've said often in these talks, the consciousness that passes as normal, and this is what Jan alluded to as well, the consciousness that passes as normal is lost in thought. We're just tied up in this parade of random and unbidden thoughts that goes on and on and on. And then essentially what we do, and what I'm about to say next will be very important for what we're going to be doing by the end of the hour, actually having some experience of this very, very open dimension. The thoughts that go on in our head, I identify myself with those thoughts. I am silently speaking those thoughts. I am the speaker of those thoughts. Now, for these thoughts to keep continuing in the way that they do, they just go on, and it's like the parade that never ends. Okay. What we have to do is suppress feeling presence. We actually have to bring tension into the body to create a situation that we can go off lost in thought in that way. Okay. And what we're doing with these hollow bamboo practices is, in a sense, reversing that situation. Because what we find, and this is the first personal awakening that has to occur in these practices for those of us who are sincere about really wanting to come out of the dream. Okay. What we have to do, from my perspective anyway, and I know it reflects my bias, but I think I think it's pretty valid what I'm about to say. We need to awaken the shimmer. We need to awaken the felt presence of the body. On every part of the body, down to the smallest cell, some sensation or other. It's kind of shimmery. We've done this in the last number of talks. I asked people to hold out a hand, and people will comment on what's actually transpiring, what words they would use to describe what's actually transpiring in that hand. And sometimes it starts off with, oh, I can feel it's kind of heavy and there's a cool breeze. But gradually, for all of us, when we go deeper and deeper, right into the hand, right into the center of the hand, people start using phrases like, oh, it feels something's coming alive, something is bubbling, something is percolating, something is vibrating. And we start realizing that on every part of the body, down to the smallest cell, there's a quality of shimmering sensation that can be felt to occur. Now, look, it's not always pleasant, because sometimes when we become aware of the body, oh, I become aware of the pain that I haven't wanted to feel. But all of it is sensation. And what we are finding is, like so many other people, if you awaken the felt presence of the body and then start letting go in the way that these fundamental principles of the sitting practice allow you to do, something wonderful starts occurring. Things that have been held for a long period of time start releasing, letting go, and resolving themselves. Areas in the body that have been blind start coming to life as we move more into an awareness of body as a unified field of felt shimmer from head to foot. What happens, remember, we're lost in thought, no awareness of sensations. It's like a teeter-totter. You awaken body, and it's just as though someone pulls the plug on that parade of unbidden, random, ceaseless thought. And not only does it pull the plug on the parade of thought, it also pulls the plug on one's ability to identify myself as the speaker of those thoughts. If there's no thoughts there, there's no speaker. And this is when we enter into some of these far more embodied, far more open dimensions. When we get in touch with reality as we can experience it as it is, and let go of some of the concepts that we have. And today we're going to challenge, some of those concepts. Now, in the beginning, what we want to do is a kind of personal awakening. We sit down on our cushions. We let ourselves feel how we can be as tall as we possibly can be, but as relaxed as we can be. Mostly meditation is taught as a mental exercise, right? Sit down and start doing the meditation. For me, the practice is the sitting down, and the breathing. What occurs when we sit down and let go? What occurs when we sit down and start surrendering to the breath? And, it's interesting, sitting down, breathing, they're as somatic as you get. There's nothing about an examination of the contents of mind. We can just let that go, let it go past, not grab at it, not push it away, but just stay in the surrendered space of inviting feeling presence, sensational presence, just to be here. Just to be here exactly as it is. And gradually that teeter-totter just starts shifting until a time comes when the body is completely, if we can use this word, sensationalized, okay? And suddenly something else starts occurring. When we pull the plug on the bubble, the balloon bubble of thoughts, okay, we just pop it. What's there to replace it? And this is what, for me, the practices are all about, because they help us wake up from this dream of being lost in thought and experiencing this, frankly, completely wonderful, initially unusual, extraordinary dimension that I call the great wide open, that I experience as our fundamental core essence. So we come out of an identity, a very limited identity of being lost in thought, and come into an awareness, this very alive, very awakened, very aware, but very, very, very open, very, very open. And as we'll see by the end of this hour, one of the things that we're being challenged to play with here, mostly when I am lost in thought, I am this person, Will. It's kind of poured into this body like milk into a carton. Everything inside the body is exclusively me. Everything outside of the body is other than me. Now, this is what the Sufi mystic Rumi calls the consciousness of separation. And I is a demarcation of separation. Okay? I and everything else. Okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with that perception from the perspective of the world of form that we're going to talk about in just a minute here. From the perspective of the great wide open, however, something fundamental changes, and it's completely natural. As sensations are invited to reassert their presence, okay? The shimmer starts percolating, starts shimmering. It's like carbonation. And then as the carbonation continues, something naturally happens that expands and spreads. And all of a sudden, what was formerly other, way out there, we realize is nowhere but inside myself. Now look, I'm not saying the objects of the physical world are inside myself, but certainly my perception of them is. And this is where things get extremely wonderful and extremely interesting. And our challenge, we all have access to these states. They're not that difficult. We're going to see by the end of the hour. But what's difficult about accessing these states, we're living in a different world. We're not bound in by the compressed, claustrophobic, limited mind that says who I am is this guy Will, and everything else is something other than me. That's separation. Now, Rumi calls what happens when that lets go, and suddenly everything starts coming into a more unified whole, not only in your physical body, but in the world that you perceive outside yourself. He calls that the consciousness of union. And, this to me is what the great wide open is. This is to me what the nibbanic states are, that the Buddhists talk about. And what's very, very fascinating for me, these conditions are not some kind of abstruse and abstract condition of consciousness, of mind. They're the ultimate awakened somatic state. So we keep on inviting awakening. And I often say we invite sensations just to appear. We invite them to appear. And they come forward. They start making their shimmer felt. And over time, more and more, until, as I say, the whole body is sensationalized. And then, the awakened body transforms into the awakened large dimension. large dimension. Why am I interested in this place? Because it's better there. It feels better there. It feels more content there. It's not even as though, oh, I'm having a great high spiritual experience. It's very interesting, the shift in consciousness. And it really aligns with all of the, the highest spiritual teachings of what the goal of our practices is. But, for me, the practice really is about healing. It's about healing. It's about healing the unconscious holdings and resistances that seem to be normal, not only in me and my body, but in everybody within our culture. And these holdings and resistances cause us to act, frankly, often in ways that aren't that happy, and not happy for self or happy for others, because we're still living in this dream of the bubble of thought of how reality is constructed. And there's so much separation between me and other, and looking at other as challenging, almost as an enemy, perhaps. And it's not only personal me, it's cultural world. We want to evolve, we want to awaken. We really do. Now, one of my favorite texts, and I think I talk about this in the last talk, is the Heart Sutra that says everything that exists in two forms, two aspects. One is form, physical form, but the other, the Heart Sutra says, is there's a kind of pervasive, underlying, for lack of a better word, emptiness, kind of a vast, wide open space. Okay. I remember when I first heard this, it must be 40 years ago, and I couldn't wrap my mind around that. I wanted to experience enlightenment without realizing at the time, for that big opening to occur, I had to let I go. And when I say I had to let I go, what I had to do is soften and relax the tensions, the holdings that are responsible for allowing the parade to proceed at all. And letting go, relaxing through there, that's what started making the shift. So the Heart Sutra says everything that exists is two aspects, the form, but the emptiness. Well, what could that emptiness possibly be? The easiest way in the beginning, right now, to get a taste of what I'm talking about is that, we look at one another. Right now I'm in the center of the screen. People are looking at me. I look pretty solid. And from the outside in, it sure feels pretty solid. This is solid form. So what about this emptiness? Well, here's what's about that emptiness. Even though you may look at me or anybody else and recognize me by the appearance of my very solid physical form, you don't experience yourself that way. Not at all. You experience yourself more as a kind of strange, how do we even talk about this? A strange kind of open, sort of spatial something or other that seems to penetrate and pervade this otherwise physical form. Who you are is not, it doesn't experience itself as solid. It conceives of itself as very solid because, again, we're caught up just in the world of form. And we've let go our experiential understanding of the other side of the coin. Everything in the world, the Heart Sutra says. Yes, the solid form, but an underlying, pervasive, the word that's mostly used is emptiness or void. They're not my favorite words. I prefer the great wide open, because there's a substratum out of which it appears that everything manifests. Now, I think I've talked about this as well in one of these talks. I really like the quantum physicist David Bohm, even though I'm the first to admit that my understanding of what he's, of just what that mind did is very, very limited. I'm really a lay person. But Bohm, towards the end of his life, seemed to think, and this is one of the most respected quantum physicists in the world, he came to the conclusion that our whole understanding of what constitutes reality, it needs a readjustment. And he felt that science, as great as it is, looking at things infinitesimally small and unimaginably large, nonetheless is only looking at half the picture, half the puzzle. Bohm almost directly reflected the wisdom of the Heart Sutra when he said that everything partakes of two dimensions, what he called an explicate order, and this is the world of form. You know, we see objects. It's an explicate order. It's right there. Okay. However, he said, what also exists, and this is where no scientist is looking, is this dimension, this parallel dimension that he calls the implicate order. Now, how did he describe this? At the time, he became very fascinated with the phenomenon of holography, that from a single light source, you can do some magic and apparently create pretty realistic images of three-dimensional objects. Now, Bohm believed that the world, the explicate order, might be akin to something of a holographic image projected out of this implicate something or other. Bohm didn't know what it was. He just knew that it existed. And he said that objects move back and forth from this world of, in a sense, non-existence, emptiness, into the world of manifestation constantly, but at such a rapid rate that it doesn't appear that we're not pretty, pretty solid for, for the most part. So, this to me was, was very, very fascinating. Underneath, pervading the world of physical form is this dimension of emptiness. Bohm, his definition then of the universe, he called it an undivided wholeness of flowing movement. And that partakes of both. The undivided wholeness is the Great Wide Open. The undivided wholeness is this implicate order, is the emptiness of the Heart Sutra. Okay. And out of that manifests this flowing movement. It's just manifesting a world of flowing movement. Now, remember that the Buddha said, when asked, well, how am I supposed to relate to all this world of form? And he said, look upon it as a dream, as a bubble, as a phantom. Now, hear me, and I really don't want to be misunderstood here, because there are some teachings, and I think more particularly of Hindu philosophy, they talk about this split as well. They talk about Maya, the world of form, which they denigrate by calling it, oh, it's just illusion. It's just illusion. Something only a spiritual lowlife would be interested in. But then there's the underlying Brahman, where the where the good stuff is. Now, I see things a little bit differently. I want to acknowledge both. I want us to bring this great wide open dimension right into the world of form, right into our bodies, right into our interactions with others, right into the life that we lead. And I actually, in some ways, I have no idea if I'm accurate about this or not, but I feel sometimes the pressures of the awakening are coming from whatever you want to call it, the Mahamudra ground state, the substratum, the implicate order, the Great Wide Open. It's looking for physical bodies that are open to it. So it can use you as a conduit to influence and affect the world of form and everything in the world of form. Yourself, your loved ones, your neighbors, your co-workers, everybody in your country, everybody in the world, and the natural order of the planet that we live on. So for me, it's perhaps it's naive, perhaps it's small, but it still is a very, very optimistic image that I have, that the Great Wide Open itself, this force that wants to not only heal and enlighten you, but then to start affecting or influencing everything around you. Uh, it's here. It's here to help us. It's here to help heal us. Hopefully, it's here to help heal our culture and our planet. Which, just as human bodies, we're reflections. We're reflections of the difficulties and the challenges that are going on. The assault on nature, the assault on individual freedoms. Somehow you look upon that. That can only happen in a body that is shut down and living in a dream. Okay? Once we awaken, and this is a point that I know I wanted to make perhaps at the end of our hour here today, but I can say it right now. It is not possible to act unethically or immorally when you are really merged into these very, very natural, but very deep and awakened conditions. The feeling tone of that condition, and nothing could be more natural. Nothing could be more relaxed. Nothing could be more awakened. The feeling tone, frankly, is of compassionate love. I don't know, that even sounds too dry. There's a radiance that occurs, that we palpably feel a connectivity and a connection, not only with an awakened self, but with everything that we ordinarily conceived as outside ourselves. It feels really good. It's where human beings, again, from my perspective and my bias, want to live. Okay, so let's play here. A little bit. I encourage everybody to come to sitting. Now, you may be sitting in a chair. You may be sitting doing meditation on a kneeling bench. You may be doing meditation cross-legged on cushions on the floor. For all of these postures, when you come to sitting, the very first thing that you want to tend to is what I call the line, okay? It's this imaginary vertical axis. The Buddha even says this, the first words on meditation. Sit in such a way that your spine is erect and upright, okay? It's an imaginary axis that we want to, I could say you want to organize the structure of your body around, but that sounds too much like doing something. You want to really allow this, because really all you're doing is playing with the dance of upright balance in your sitting posture. How tall can you be while staying as relaxed as you can be? And the body starts awakening around this line. Now look, we want to find this because this allows us to relax. Relaxation in some ways is no more complicated or difficult to understand than the ability to drop whatever we're holding, the burden, the weight of the body, to the source of gravity. Now, if you have a body like this, your head's way off forward or something, you're sitting in a sitting posture like this, you can't let go, you can't relax, because if you really did, you just fall over. So what we're doing is creating a condition. I don't even like calling it a structural condition because it's more of a dance. It's more of something that, breath by breath, it shifts. Everything keeps moving. Everything keeps shifting. Not that you're kind of moving around, but it's just that, as you let go, everything gets extremely willowy, but simultaneously more present. Stability, the only stability you're ever going to find is in this motility, this quality that everything is moving. We can organize ourselves around the line. And then we can start relaxing, what I call the second leg of the stool of the posture of meditation. Now, for relaxing, it's a matter of just dropping the weight to gravity. It's also a matter of taking your awareness through your body, starting right up in your head. Invite sensations to appear. As soon as sensation Something appears, it may be tense, it may be shimmery, it may be numb. As soon as it appears, just let go, just relax the sensation. For me, it's not enough just to invite sensation into felt life. We want to invite it and then relax. Relax right through it. We invite, oh, we feel a holding here. Relax. Through the front of the face, the neck, the throat, the shoulders, all the way down through the arms, sensations everywhere. As soon as our invitation, really we focus, we have to deliver the invitation, right? You know, I think it's like delivering a subpoena or something. It has to be done. You have to deliver it. So we have an intention, sensations in any part of the body, in my arm. I invite you to join the party. Come alive. There it is. And then, you can just relax. Just relax it. All through the arms, the hands, all through the torso. Relax. The whole of the rib cage, down into the belly, the pelvis. Within our culture, it's taboo to experience ourselves this way. This is really crazy. That's for another conversation. Down through the legs. So in this way, the upright allows us to start not only inviting sensations to come alive, but to relax. As soon as a sensation comes alive, it's relaxing. 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 Okay. Now, the third stool of the posture of meditation, this is the one, as I often say, this is the most radical piece that I insist upon and bring to the Dharma conversation. Because mostly when I sit in front of a hall of sitting meditators, I look out on the hall and people are sitting very still, as though the goal of the practice is to become like a stone garden statue of the Buddha, okay? The stillness that you're after is a quiescent quality that you touch when you move into the great wide open. Paradoxically, that cannot occur if we're tensing ourselves, sitting frozen, sitting with nothing moving. Everybody do that for a second. Just sit in a way that absolutely nothing moves, frozen. Okay, you can't do it very long because you can't breathe, okay? You'll experience how it creates tension, just creates tension in the body, the antithesis of this relaxation. The sensations perhaps get intensified, but they you lose the quality of the shimmer. And if you keep playing with these sincerely, you get to a place where you're going to realize that all of these tensions, all of these holdings actually are like fuel on the fire of the parade, of the already out of control, unbidden, random thoughts that are just going on and on. So, initially we sit down and we begin our personal awakening and our personal healing. Because essentially what we're doing here, and I know Jan alluded to this, yes, this is spiritual practice, but it is ultimate therapy, ultimate somatic therapy, healing the emotional kinks and the physical resistances and pains, okay? It all can start letting go, and it's all the same. For me, you do not get what might be called spiritual awakening separate from this awakening of somatic presence. It doesn't make sense to me, okay? Conversely, those of us that have been drawn to the really extraordinary world of somatic psychotherapy, and I'm thinking of the body work, the deep body work, the breath work, uh, body-mind centering, Hakomi, Peter Levine, somatic experiencing. Wonderful, wonderful work. I think what we want to get is that, yes, this opening that's starting to make us aware of presence, going into it and then letting go. Ultimately, it wants to keep going until something very large and very natural opens up. It's very natural what we're about to play here. So the initial work for me of my practices, I sit down just as I'm sharing here. I start feeling, I start inviting the feeling presence to come forward as I focus on, okay, how tall can I be, but how relaxed can I be? So it's not kind of like a ballet dancer or anything, but it's not that either. How relaxed can I be within this dance of the upright? And then, how much can I bring to life sensation and then relax whatever quality appears within the sensation as it emerges. And then remembering as I start awakening in the morning, I'm going to sleep all night. I feel it kind of, I can feel the holding there. I'm just not letting go. You can't force relaxation to occur, movement to happen, but you can let go. You can let go. And over time, the resilient motion stabilizes. Funny word to talk about in the context of resilient motion. It stabilizes the alignment and the relaxation. But as I've often said, this practice is more like what happens when you ride a bike than a fence post. You're not wanting to become alignment. If that's all it was, it could be a fence post. Soldier standing at attention. Relaxation, if that's all it was, you could be just lying on the ground and never get up. Because that actually, and in the teaching that I do, in the retreats, we do a lot of practices lying down, surrendering the weight of the body to gravity. It's the easiest place to experience that. But alignment without relaxation doesn't give you what you want. Alignment and relaxation cannot continue over time unless you also understand that to truly relax the dynamic, alive, living being, everything keeps moving. Everything keeps moving. There may be deep things that churn up from the depths of the body mind that all of a sudden you get frozen again, but you stay there, stay there, stay there. That's part of the dance of balance. And it can let go. And this is the way we go step by step, sensation by sensation, breath by breath. And in a sense, what I've done here is, really give you an overview of what we generally take multiple days in retreat to experience. But this is, as I say, this is the personal awakening that we want to initially experience in our lives. As I was saying in the last talk, this suddenly the body is a shimmer. It's like a stream. It's like water that's moving. The Theravadins talk about this. This is what they call entering the stream. You want to enter the stream and then let go to the current. And as we keep letting go to the current now, it's not only just the physical body of sensations that starts awakening, but it's this larger body of experience that wants to awaken next and naturally occurs. So let's play here a little bit. Here we're sitting to the best of our abilities with feeling of the upright, relaxation, motion. Okay, I want you all to open your eyes and just let the visual field come to you. Don't go out reaching or the visual field, you don't have to. The visual field is right here, and experience it coming right to you, coming right to you, okay? Now, just as we were working to awaken the whole of the physical body, we want now to invite an awareness of the whole of the visual field just to be present. Now, ordinarily, this is not how we look. Ordinarily, we're like a hawk, flying over a field, like, looking for something. Or, what do I want? Okay, I don't have to see anything else. There's a little mouse. Okay. That is the quality of vision that occurs when we're lost in thought. Because the mind, the eye, is always searching, looking. What serves me, what doesn't? What do I need to pay attention to? What can I let go of? What I'm suggesting you do right now is something different. Let yourself just see the whole of the visual field as a unified field. And what that means is that you see everything out at the left and right side, the periphery, the top at the bottom. It's the whole, seeing the whole of this roughly elliptical visual field. When we awaken the body, we may start by moving part by part, but ultimately we want to find this place where we can experience the whole of the body all at once as this unified field of presence. So do the same with the visual field. You don't have to just look at one object, then the next, then another. Now, perhaps it can be helpful to have a little object in the center of the visual field. And this is where these visual objects that I call the kasinas can be very, very helpful, because they can stabilize you. They can stabilize, there's the center, but allow you to see everything all at once. Everything all at once. It's roughly elliptical, this visual field. Just look. And experience that the more you allow visual field to be here as a unified field, you really have to relax into this. Ooh, there's a presence that awakens to meet it. And perhaps the two even start intermingling a little bit. It's as though the visual field comes right into you, perhaps even passes right through you. While somatic presence expands and almost moves right through the visual field. You hear oftentimes you want to create a mind like a mirror, okay? What I'm suggesting right now is that the awakened body becomes the mirror of vision, so that every little blip of visual data, you can feel it intermingling with every little sensation of the body. And the more you relax and the more you invite a dance, really, an intermingling, almost a lovemaking, frankly, with visual field, something starts shifting, something starts happening. And suddenly we're not so much in what I call a bumper car relation to the world that I conceive as existing out there. I'm inviting my perception of that world to join, to commingle, to merge, really, with the somatic shimmer. Now, this is not me joining with the world. If you stay stuck in your mind, identified with the thoughts, it'll never happen, because that mind, it depends on separation. Remember, I. If I am I is totally a demarcation of separation. It's the world of separation. Remember, Rumi says there's something else here. The consciousness of union. So just let yourself look, see the whole of the visual field. Now add sounds. exactly as they are. The loudest to the softest, the closest, sounds that's closer to you to the sound that's furthest away. And just as we are opening, remember, we're inviting reality to make itself felt, seen, and heard. It's not like, oh, I really don't like the sound of the refrigerator. I better shut that out. No, you open to everything. And what gets interesting, it's not only sounds from outside yourself, it's internal sounds. Sometimes people feel the beating of their heart. Sometimes we feel a subtle, the sound of the shimmer, high-pitched frequency. And relax into the sounds. Invite them in and see how the sounds can help stabilize the joining of the presence of somatic shimmer with the shimmer of the visual field. Now, I call it the shimmer of the visual field because what starts happening when body becomes awakened, suddenly we conceived of everything as solid, and all of a sudden now everything's kind of shimmering. We conceive of every object in the visual field as very solid as well. From this dimension, we start looking, and everything may be kind of looking like heat seen across a desert plain. Everything is kind of shimmering as well. Joining the shimmer of sensation with the shimmer of the visual field. And you don't have to try to make anything special here. You just see, feel, hear, relax. You join vision with sensation. And then the sounds, I often think of the sounds kind of like the horizontal bar that a tightrope walker uses. When he or she walks across a line strung between two trees or two buildings. Okay. The sounds have an ability to ground the joining of sensation and visual field. Now, there will come a time, you keep playing with this. This is what I call the large body of experience. It's not just the physical limbs of my body, it's the sensory limbs. The visual field can be experienced as kind of a sensory limb of this larger body of experience. So can the sounds. Taste and smell, obviously, as well. For me, the three primary fields are vision, sensation, and sound. Okay? And when we invite the three of those to start coalescing, how do we do that? It's kind of like an equilateral triangle. Equal awareness of vision, the whole field, equal awareness of the awakened body, the shimmer, equal awareness of all the sounds, inside and outside. When those three come into a kind of balance, the only way I can describe it is that a crack appears in the fabric of visible appearance. And suddenly, in this joined, merged dimension of sound, vision, and somatic shimmer, you just float right through into what I believe Bohm is speaking of as this implicate substratum underneath, what the Buddhist world speaks of as the Nibbanic realm. This is what I call, the great wide open. Some people call it the Mahamudra ground state. And, once again, while it really gives you an extraordinary perspective on how reality is constructed, which to me is one of the cornerstones of a spiritual awakening, just feels so very much better there. That to me is the end of the story. I like this other dimension. I enter into this other dimension every time I can relax completely. beginning with the relaxation through the body, inviting sensation, then inviting the visual field, this whole of the visual field. It's kind of strange, isn't it? We see it all at once. And when I see the visual field all at once, whoa, then I can really feel my sensations coming alive. The shimmer becomes very strong. There come the sounds to stabilize it. And suddenly, in this merger, crack appears. I slip through into a place that is so wonderful for me, but the conventional I is not there. The American religious philosopher William James spoke of this dimension as shusness, not unconsciousness, not consciousness, but shusness. It's just this great wide open presence without the need of this intermediary concept I. Dzogchen talks about this as Rigpa in our natural state, and it's here for the taking. It's here for each and every one of us. We just have to, in a sense, pull the plug on how we've bought into what I call the somatophobic bias of the world, that our culture encourages us to think, and really strongly discourages bodies to come awake, bodies to feel the vitality of their lived presence. And hence we have a world where people are often physically and emotionally depressed, certainly energetically kind of just like on a dimmer switch, way down, and we don't have the vibrancy of this felt force that wants to come through. I often talk about, it's such a basic philosophical trope, Plato's cave. Plato conceived that most humans are like they're living a life in a cave. Oh, there's a huge light source outside the cave, but everybody has their backs to the light source. And we see the shadows and we take that for reality. We take the illusion, the dream for reality. What I encourage everybody to do, and you know what, it isn't that much of an encouragement with those of you who are on a call like this, because calls like this are very self-selective. You wouldn't be on a call like this if you already hadn't had that something or other that woke you up to the awareness that, wait a minute, something's going on here that is deeper than what I'm conventionally experiencing. And Plato says, turn around, walk out into the light. Maybe terrifying at first. The lightness of being that you can experience is unbearable. That was the title of a novel, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, right? It's so good. It's almost unbearable. I got to get back to my more familiar place, which is me, will. I've got to do something in this world. Now look, that is also there. It's not as though we're throwing that out as well. Remember, I want people to do both. I want you to open into these extraordinary birthright states and then start spreading that into the world around you. There's a radiance that occurs. I often say when you awaken the body in this way, the energies are too big for a single body to contain. They have to be radiated out and shared. So here we have it. We start off, again, I'll use James's analogies, in a place of unconsciousness. We're locked in the mind, we're lost in the mind, we have, breath is shut down, no awareness. We start becoming conscious. We start the waking up process. Being grateful for the understanding of this one little structural coordinate, the upright. Oh, something happens when I play around this coordinate. I can drop my weight, but something rises up, it lifts, I expand, I open, sensations come out, I relax them. Everything moves. We start there, we become conscious. Then we keep letting go. We keep surrendering. We keep letting go. And the greater letting go, you don't have to do this. It's just nature taking its course. As the individual body awakens, the shimmer just starts spreading, commingles with visual field. There come the sounds. And the three of those together, even if just for a flash in a moment, you disappear into a place where, while there isn't the concept of you, this is the shushness. It feels more like what you know to be true about being alive than anything that you've ever, heretofore experienced. When the editors at Shambhala, they asked me to, they're going to do the 25th anniversary, the revision, the expansion of the posture meditation, and said, we want you to write a whole other section. One of the things they asked me about, the work that you're doing, the practices that you're doing, often Dharma practice is split up between foundational practices and culmination practices. In the Theravadan world, you might say Anapana and Vipassana, although often, in some of the teachings, they're very different practices. In others, they're not. We just start working with the breath. It gets more subtle. We get more understanding of it. We move into more open, dimensions. Here, I just have a little note here. So that's Keith to everyone. Okay, fine. We start by doing the foundational practices, which for me are the teachings of the bringing alignment, relaxation, and resilience. Turning sitting meditation from a tight, rigid, frozen mental exercise into an awakening, almost, I hesitate to use the word dance, because, it isn't necessarily a dance, although I suppose it could become that, but just an allowing. And in that, the awakening occurs. Now, that to me is the foundation that then allows us to keep letting go, inviting visual field to merge with you, inviting sensations to come in and merge. And suddenly, that's when we enter into these great wide open dimensions where it's almost as though we become like the light source. In our conventional consciousness, I am an object moving through space. From the perspective of the great wide open, you're just the space in which everything is appearing. Everything is manifesting, the flowing movement. You're the undivided wholeness in which the flowing movement occurs. So, this is all of our birthrights. What I'm sharing here is nothing particular, peculiar that I've figured out or that I've created. This is just an understanding of the dimension of experience that is all of our birthright. And again, I really want to stress, in these great wide open states, it is not possible to behave unethically, to behave immorally. It's not like, I have to work on, establishing the precepts or whatever. You just manifest it. The metta, of some wonderful teachers teaching metta practices, just starting right with the compassionate joy. You don't have to manufacture metta. All you have to do is awaken. And then metta becomes the feeling tone. Okay? That pervades this, this dimension. So we start off with foundational practices, and then, it just keeps going. And then things get larger. We add the experiential limbs, the sensory limbs of our body. My awareness of the visual field is a sensory limb of my body. My awareness of sounds. Sounds are another sensory limb. And we take those and merge those together. And as you see, that's when things get very interesting. Now, in the teaching I do, and we're going to be starting actually next Saturday morning We'll be doing a retreat. I believe it's 3 hours that Saturday morning, that Sunday morning, the next Saturday morning, the next Sunday morning, and a final Sunday morning. What I want to do in that retreat, start right from the beginning. We want to establish these foundational practices that then, in the second half of the retreat, we'll see, we can expand even further open. It's exciting, it's exhilarating, it can be sometimes a little scary, and it's altogether, wonderful. I certainly invite any of you who've been reading the books or been following, some of these talks that I've been doing, to consider coming in and joining, because we have the time. I often say Dharma is not fast food therapy. I love doing these hour-long Zoom interactions. I'm definitely going to be continuing to do more of these. If you can come and join in one of the multi-hour gatherings or retreats, I just strongly encourage you to participate. At this time, we're still such an uncertain time on our planet. I'm an older man, so I've been self-isolating. My wife, Coco, and I. We're fortunate. We live in a beautiful place. We live out in nature. Our life is given over to practices now. We have the time to do practices. I encourage all of you to take this time to keep exploring. Go deep, go deep. The world needs it. You need it for your healing. We all do for our personal healing. The world needs you to heal for its healing. Anyway, thank you so much. I enjoy these. It's always fun for me to meet with you all. I'm going to turn the gathering back over to Jan to finish things up. Jan, let me just say thank you so much for coming on. This way, Jan is a very gifted mindfulness teacher in England. She's someone for people who live in Europe, especially in the UK, to interact with if you can. So Jan, go ahead. Why don't you finish this up? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Will. I really enjoyed that so much. It really did transport me back to that place of that real connection with what is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for the wisdom and the inspiration and the encouragement, because I think we all need encouragement. And at this time, it's a tricky time. It's a very difficult time. And what a great way to connect and to be on retreat together, to be sharing this practice together. So I really would encourage anybody to go on the retreat with Will. It was transformational for me and continues to be, this practice ongoing. So the retreat is next Saturday starting. It's a 3-weekend retreat, and there are other practice opportunities as well coming up. So thank you so much, and I'm wishing you all well.